There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to call our the Parks and Natural Resources Committee meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. And Jennifer, can you call the roll so it ends up on the, please?
Sure. Let's see. Quentin Kessel
Hello,
here.
this is Vicki.
Here.
Hi, Vicki.
Vicky
Yep.
Weatherall here.
That's me.
Sue and Tom Harrington.
We are here.
Yeah.
Ken Feathers.
He's muted.
And acknowledging. Yeah.
Jim
I'm
Morrow.
I'm here as chair.
And Charlotte Pyle.
Here.
And our alternates, Miranda Davis and Juliana Barrett, are not with us. Okay, the minutes from January 25. We have a motion to accept as presented.
So move.
A second.
I second.
Any substantial corrections? And anyone opposed to accepting them? Okay. Where Jay O'Keefe has joined us, it has been suggested that we may want to remove the new business item on the was it 5-4, the American Rescue Plan to the first item on our agenda. Or first, is there any discussion of doing this or opposition? Okay, so that brings us to agenda item 5.4, American Rescue Plan Act funding proposals.
Well,
And
first, does everyone know Jay O'Keefe, our new Director of Parks and Recreation? Have you all met him?
Yeah, and I'll just take an opportunity if I can real quickly. I won't keep you long, and I'm going to hang in there as long as I can. I appreciate you shuffling the agenda, but you know, I'm kept up to speed by Jennifer, of course, and you know, going through minutes and things throughout my 27-year career with the town, going back to when Kurt was here, and of course I was in a interim position for about a year and a half, I guess, as we made our way through some economic challenges or financial challenges during COVID. Nonetheless, I've been on board here as a, you know, hopefully permanent director, so to speak, in middle of January. And so I wanted to take an opportunity, I had mentioned it to Jennifer when that came about, I want to take an opportunity to connect with the committee here. I know you do a ton of important work for the town. You work extremely hard. Great stewards of the land and natural resources. And I know planning is a big piece of what you folks do. And that's why we have some exciting news here tonight too. So timing was oddly great. I had planned to be here anyhow. We did not plan to have all those items approved at last night's council meeting, but certainly happy they did. So anyhow, thank you very much for letting me step in here tonight and kind of listen and observe. In case folks aren't aware, and I'll have Jennifer and others hop in here, but if you aren't aware, last night the town council approved several projects within the ARPA funds. The town was getting two tranches, as I called, of funds from the government, and the first level of funding was received, another one coming this summer. Nonetheless, within that whole scope of things was the approval of the master plan for our parks and recreation areas. And so I know that this committee certainly has been very interested in this over the years. I'd like to take some kind of indirect credit, but there really is none. This was something that was put forward for many, many years. And I know Jennifer, certainly a big advocate of that recently, as we talked, and putting projects forward. And I guess all the stars were aligned for us, and we have a great opportunity here. So look forward to that process. It will be an involved one with the committee and the public and so on. But anyhow, we're very excited about that. So.
I think at your I think it was the last meeting, I shared some examples of parks master plans, just so you knew, what it could look like. But we'll be, I think Jay and I haven't even had a chance to talk about this, but probably be scoping it out and doing an RFP I guess we can start spending that money pretty quickly. So, which is great. And then after that, so the way that it's written is we have $100,000 for the plan, and then they funded in total $850,000. So there'll be $750,000 to implement that plan. So.
And I think we probably all agree that's a great way to do it. There's been some, we've done a lot of work, right, collectively over the years, the town on parks and recreation projects, but this is a great opportunity to get to the community to weigh in on those things and really go through a very formal process that will hopefully not just help us fairly immediately, but also for several years to come in terms of a well laid out plans. As Jennifer said, there's a lot involved with that. We're happy to talk about that if folks have questions, but it is quite a process, and we'll certainly be filling you in on those details. But yeah, we have about 750,000 to figure with the community and how to best spend that. So exciting.
We have people at town hall.
That's what happens when you let people in. Last night was the first in-person meeting, although, and I did read a statement, very carefully worded, so it sounded like it was committee, but it wasn't really. I used personally a couple of times in it and stuff. If you want to see a copy of it, I can share it out, or Jennifer can share it. But I noticed all the staff was taking advantage of being remotely so they could accomplish something with the bosses looking at them instead of the bosses look at them.
It is one advantage to hybrid meetings these days is those meetings can go on for many hours, and
Yeah.
But we take advantage of the hybrid when we can, I guess, right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm retired from Travelers, and we used to do oftentimes most of our meetings were just audio only. A couple of times they were simply done, everybody at their desk, because there wasn't a good conference room to fit us all. I got the team together. But that's what happens when you work for an international company. Does anybody have any questions on, I assume at some point, some of us will be involved in putting in critiquing or helping to work with the request for proposals that go out. I think I've got the right term.
Yeah, well, one observation I would make that might be useful to include in the RFP would be that we learned from COVID that the opportunity for distanced outdoor recreation created much more demand from our parks than historically. And so we need to develop the parks to accommodate a larger demand.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm assuming that a lot of people have gotten the habit of walking the trails. I know a couple of times walking the trails, when you never would see anybody, you routinely would meet 2 or 3 groups of walkers.
Mm-hmm. And I think tying it back to a response to COVID will help really pin down the justification for spending this money on our parks and recreation.
Yeah,
I'd like to add that in addition to developing things, we need to think about maintenance.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes, a lot of times, a little bit more spent in the initial can save quite a bit over the life of the project. And the other thing I noted in my comments was that with the new elementary school, there's going to be a change in how at least the parks in that area are used. You know, I think I used the phrase environmental and outdoor experiential education. Which seems experiential education seems to be the term that like Mystic Seaport is applying, whereas many of you know I volunteer and help teach sailing and stuff in many of their grant proposals. If we, is there anything else on the Recovery Act stuff? Should we move on to park updates?
Are there going to be meetings just to discuss possibilities for that, or how is that going to work?
The park master plan,
Yeah,
I think that's to be determined, right, Jay? We're still,
I was going to say, since it was from last night, I assume that nothing has been completely written in stone, but thinking of having meetings maybe, or I just,
So I think that, yeah, it's not quite 24 hours. So Jennifer and I need to connect and then, you know, start to put together the RFP, which we'll get some input, I'm sure, on that.
Yeah,
And they can go different directions. They can go different directions. At least I don't have extensive knowledge, but my knowledge is they can go in different directions in terms of how that is written. So it'll be important that we try to include what we can, and we put a pretty healthy price together in terms of what we are asking for. You know, we think the 100,000 should get us, you know, pretty detailed and, you know, broad plan. So anyhow, I guess
yeah,
we connect, and then we'll provide more information and direction. Although we love to see this tomorrow, I will just let you know too that you know, we are still down 2 full-time positions in our department. We are actively recruiting those right as we, you know, go through the work week. So that might dictate a little bit in terms of the pace. Not that it'll be super slow, but it might, you know, there's going to be a commitment of staff time to this project, and we need to make sure that we're ready to do that with the committee and many subcommittees that might come out of it. So yeah, I think first step is for Jennifer and I to get an understanding, but we certainly will you know, be looking for feedback and direction, and it won't be the last you hear of it before the RFP goes out.
I
Okay.
would take some time to go through the examples that I had sent out in your previous packets, just to give you, you know, just to see what other towns have done and you know, what those plans have included, just to kind of give you some ideas. And whatever it is, I think we committed to the town council or that it was going to be a, you know, a extensive community engagement process. So
should be fun.
let the work begin.
okay. Anything else on that topic? Okay, park updates. Jennifer, I assume you have a couple, or I haven't been out too much, although starting to get ready to go back out and do things.
Okay, we can talk about Merrell. It is
Yeah.
finally completely de-iced. Yesterday was day number 1 for wood frogs and the first batch of wood frog eggs. So things are starting to happen. It's still very heavily used. We went down today after I got back from subbing, and there were 7 cars there, most of which were dog walkers, but that's the way it's been. You know, we have yet to be down there alone. We've never been down there alone. There's always at least one other car and usually 4 or 5. So it's still being heavily used. But there was a period of time in January that it was really dangerous. It was very, very icy.
Yeah.
I did mention that to Will over at Public Works, and they said they would try to do that. They go to the roads first, then the parking lots first. Yeah.
We
So
know
Yeah. Yeah.
that. There will be some need for somebody to get out there on some of the bridges, just little repairs that mostly will take a hammer, maybe some nails, screws, whatever they're going to use on the different bridges out there.
The side panels mostly.
Yeah.
The bridges themselves look okay, but some of the side panels that go up an inch or 2 above the surface, I guess mostly to keep wheelchairs from taking headlong dives. There's a few of them that are off and there's a few of them that are loose.
I will send out a work order to Public Works as they are out there on the trails to look for that.
And we figured not until spring to do it anyway, because if anything ices up, it's just gonna push the boards out a little bit more.
Sure.
You know, although a week of 60-degree weather, it won't take too long before we can say, hey, it's finally spring.
Yeah.
Yes. Sunday.
Yeah.
I was out with Public Works at Sawmill Brook Preserve where we put that new parking lot, and they will be moving the sign up to so that you can actually, so it feels like it's in that part or at the end.
Right,
of the
right.
parking lot.
Yep.
And for years where people have been parking, it's actually on private property, and the property, the abutter never really mentioned anything, but he has now. So we are going to be putting rocks along the
Okay.
edge of the property on the eastern side, and people still can park parallel along the right of way, but I think they've been pulling in, nose first, so they won't be able to do that. So that's going to be happening fairly soon.
Yeah. Pollinator Pathways. The last post-pollinator pathway meeting has been canceled, and I think I'm pulling a blank on who donated zinnier seeds to be distributed to people that want to start planning for pollinator.
Was
Charlotte,
it
do
Jean
you
Dismay?
recall? What?
Was it Jean Dismay?
Yeah.
Did Ginny do it? It was either Ginny or Jean is my guess.
I think it was Jean Dismay who did it.
Yeah.
The ecotype seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
No,
pretty
the
sure.
zinnia, that's just a nectar plant. It's a yard plant.
But were they from that ecotype seed program?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
No, I think they were commercial.
All right.
Zinnias aren't particularly native to our ecotype.
Yeah.
There's kind of 2 things going on. One was that talk by Sephra Alexander, which was pretty inspiring. And then what is practical and easy to do, and that is to grow zinnias. But I think Jean is going to be working on growing some native plants.
Okay.
There's
I told
also,
her I'd give her some pots.
there's also a piece out on Woodstock. Conservation Commission is hosting a talk by Gene Plan, president of Mountain Laurel Chapter Wild Ones, to give a presentation on the importance of native plants. That's April 6th. I'm
That's
leafing
Lydia
through,
Pan.
yeah. I'm leafing through emails that have come out in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Well,
I talked to Virginia this week about the April 23rd. They're gonna have a pollinator event in the, I guess, the upper parking lot at the community center. And she asked me to work a table with informational materials and kid activities,
Yeah.
which I haven't come up with yet, but I will. So that's going to be the day after Earth Day. So it's going to kind of be an Earth Day event.
Yeah. Yeah, that's down in, there's an item down in our communications on that.
I'm glad she reached out to you. And when we get to communications, I would like to see if we could get someone to volunteer to do a hike. Maybe we can talk about it right now. A hike at the Moss Sanctuary in association with that event, if anyone is available. Willing?
Yeah, I'm manning the table, so.
I know.
We
Yeah.
should be able to. We'll
can't.
find, we'll get it.
So I'm also going to put the ask out to the Conservation Commission as well. So
Yeah,
Also, Brian Connolly at Eastern has done walks there.
yeah,
lives
he's
in
quite busy.
Mansfield.
There's a Henry Fry who works with Brian and John Silander. I was going to reach out to him as well. So
and that brings us in, let's see, I think into new business, the 5.1, the parks plan goals.
So at your last meeting, you discussed we sort of, right around when COVID hit, we started looking at some of these goals for the management plans that we had an intern working on. And so Ken had worked on some of these. He resurrected that email and I included that in your packet. You know, I don't know if someone, how would you all like to break that up and review all of this? It's a little meaty, but I don't know if folks, if you want to have a subcommittee to kind of go through this and you could meet, you know, a pair of you could meet and I could post a special subcommittee meeting, or how do folks feel like it's best to approach this?
Well, can I make a suggestion? I put some stuff down. I drew heavily on the plan of conservation and development. And I think I always get better inspiration when I'm reacting to something on paper. And so I think the next step would be for people to read and mark it up, and then either in a subcommittee, as you suggest, or in our next meeting, focus on trying to finalize this.
This is Vicki. I have read through the draft template, and I have to say, Ken, you did a great job. I don't know what we can do to improve it. I'm sure there are some things we could do, but it's really great the way it is right now.
Well, thank you.
I'd be willing to serve on a subcommittee, but personally,
And I
I
guess
don't
I
have
have
a
to.
lot of changes to make.
I would join you on that subcommittee if that's the way we go.
So maybe what it is now in terms of approaching this, it's if folks are in agreement that they like this sort of draft template for goals, then we start applying it to the different properties. We have 5 properties that are basically ready to go. We just need to apply these goals, whatever the goal is going to be, and then we can bring them to the town council, those management plans. Do people want to pick off like a property at a time and just work with this template in a subcommittee meeting, or how do folks want to
Yes,
proceed?
I'm thinking maybe the subcommittee could apply it to a property as a test run, see how it works.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'd like to suggest the Moss Sanctuary. I don't know if it's in the list, but we
It
need
is.
a management plan quick for that
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, I agree. And yes, it's on the list. It's basically ready to
Okay.
just have
good.
those goals done. Yep.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah.
So why doesn't the subcommittee start with a test run on Moss Sanctuary?
Okay. Who would like to be part of that subcommittee?
Ken,
I would think Charlotte indicated a desire or willingness, I should say, probably.
Ken, Charlotte, and Vicky?
Yeah,
And Vicky.
Okay.
And given at least for part of that, should we have somebody from Public Works in regards to the dam?
I mean, I think the dam, we have to handle that in broad. I mean, the dam is going to have to be addressed. And I think how it gets addressed and what things we have to do for that dam are going to be dictated by a dam assessment. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the bottom line is we need to keep an eye on that dam. We have to make sure that its hazard level stays within the, whatever range. I can never remember how deep wants to work that. And then, but I think at this point, we need to schedule our own inspections, but I can talk to Derek Delay about that, but I don't know that they need to be part of the subcommittee.
no, I think the Parks Action Plan would really just say, get professionals in there.
Yeah. Get a dam inspector, get a dam engineer.
And preferably one who's got a lot of experience working around DEP.
Yeah. We do have an assessment that was done by Carl Asimovic back when we acquired the property.
Yeah.
So, but, we just need to keep an eye on that. But yeah, I think the management plans really just need to be broad enough so that we're understanding the intent of the property. We have all of the data and kind of a history of the property, but I don't think we need to get too, I don't think we want to get too specific, because then every time we change any little thing, we're going to have to go back to the council, and it's just.
Yeah. On a couple
Yeah,
of
that's
the other
why
ones, we cited appendixes that weren't technically part of the management plan, I have to acknowledge that being downstream from that, I do pay attention to it.
Well, see, Jim, if we just let the pond silt in enough, you won't have a problem.
Well, actually, I figured out that the wetland between it and 195 should be able to absorb 3 or 4 times the water in the impoundment.
Yeah, and the flow under 195 is limited by the diameter of the culvert.
Yeah, but it will drain in the Schoolhouse Brook Park at that time. The other thing that happens there, and it's something to keep in mind with the Yukon discussion, is when that dam is full at its built height, it back drains into the Willimantic River. if you look at the topography there down through Owens Mere. Those Hanks built the reservoir dam no higher than they had to without building a big dike across the back.
Yeah.
Clever people.
So when would this subcommittee like to meet?
I guess it's up to us.
Right,
I assume before the next meeting,
right.
and maybe we have a special meeting. You know, we can figure
Yeah.
that out.
I think
So
you
we're not
probably-
waiting 2 months to talk about this.
Yeah, I think you should, if folks could just give me a couple dates, because I will need to notice this meeting, and then you can decide whether or not you want to meet in person, and if you could meet during the day, I could join you.
Would you
So-
like to come to that meeting, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think I'd like to come to that first meeting where
Okay.
you're looking at the Moss Sanctuary, just so that I can get a sense of that. And then I'm happy to let you all run with this, but just that first one, I think would probably be good for me to go to. So I don't know if you want to do it like the week of March 28th, like the 30th.
I will be leaving on the 29th,
You'll be leaving?
the 29th.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
when will you be returning, Charlotte?
The 21st,
The 21st of April?
yes.
Oh, okay. Are you good? Let's see.
Week of the 20th.
We could do that next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I can conceive of a April special meeting being desirable as the request for proposal comes into being finalized also.
We'll let you know. We
Yeah.
won't like send out that RFP without you reviewing, but I don't know if April, Jay and I need to kind of figure out when we're gonna have that RFP settled. But why don't I schedule a special meeting, say next Thursday, the 24th? And like,
Um,
This for the
That
for the
would be
subcommittee?
that would be
Sorry?
a subcommittee.
that would be the
that would be-
subcommittee meeting to review
Yeah.
these goals. And do you want to say like 3 o'clock on Thursday, the 24th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
If you recall our charter from the town council, we can form subcommittees and task forces at our discretion.
All right, so I will post that and we can talk about the Moss Sanctuary, and I'll send out an agenda to you all.
And where's the meeting, Jennifer?
I need to reserve a room, so I will let you all know
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Okay, and I guess that also covers both sub-items there, which brings us to the park programming brochure. Summer content is due what? Week after, next week?
Next week.
Wednesday, if I glance at my calendar right.
So I have an event for Connecticut Trails Day, which is spring, but late spring. We normally don't do a lot of programming in the summer just because it feels like it's not very well attended. So, but I didn't know if anyone was interested in running anything or had any ideas for a hike or
What months is it for, Jennifer?
it's usually like mid-June or the end of June through August. And then we start with the fall programs in September.
This might fit in with the conversation that I had with Tom Ouellette, who did a lot of photographs at Trailwood
Oh, right.
and would be interested in doing something here. He was doing an inventory of wildflowers at Trailwood and had fantastic photographs, which are on his website. And I talked with him about possibly doing something in a Mansfield Park, and he was interested in doing so, even though he's a resident of Vernon. And that led me to thinking about doing an event that is focused on an inventory that would be useful to us and to the town, but would also be an opportunity for the public to be part of it. So I was thinking of something like a wildflower day, and whoever wants to come and do a serious inventory on that day could do it, but the public could be there and learn about these wildflowers at the same time. Sort of a 2-for-1 deal. And this could happen sometime in July or August. Sue and Tom probably know of a good spot for that. I was thinking maybe Merrell Meadow, because of the meadow.
You know that I could talk with Ginny and and all of you who are doing the Pollinator Pathway, but that may fit in really well with like a co-sponsored program.
Okay, sure.
So did you give me Tom Ouellette's contact information in that email, Vicki? I can't.
I'm pretty sure I did, but I
Okay.
can. I'll give you a call. Since my
Okay, great.
computer's not working.
Okay. Great. Sounds good.
Vicky, Tom and I
Yeah.
crossed paths, but we didn't have a lot of interaction.
Well, I assumed you weren't in the same department anyway. But anyway, I was thinking that way he could do some photographic evidence. We could make our usual inventory. And we've already done an inventory. We did one several years ago, but that was for the whole season. I was thinking of, almost
Yeah.
like a BioBlitz idea, what's
Yeah.
there on a particular day. And that it was an opportunity to do something with the public that had a serious purpose, so they could see people participating in a serious project and be part of it too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we've been down there just about every day all summer for the past Lord knows how many years. We could look at some of the dates if we wanted to focus on wildflowers at Merrell. There would be some specific times when we would sort of max out the number of things we're likely to see, which would
Okay.
probably be near mid to end of August. But we could double check and see what the exact dates are, to get as
Yeah.
many flowers out as possible.
yeah, if we work out a date, the other thought I'm having is we should see if Miranda Davis do something that would fit into her schedule,
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
because
Now,
her
Sue and Tom,
expertise would
would you
be very useful in doing a survey.
right. Sue and Tom, would you be interested in helping with that since you're so familiar?
Sure.
Does that sound like something you'd like to do on top of everything else you're doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure what my summer looks like yet, whether I'm going to be working at the scout camp or not. That's still kind of up in the air, but I'm sure we could work it if it were on a weekend or something. We could work around that, even if I am at the camp.
Okay.
I'll see if I can talk to Henry about helping out too. I know he's going to be running a summer course on plants from May 31st till the end of June, but he's probably still going to be around. I don't think he's finishing up yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, would you be able to to share with Miranda our item of discussion?
Yeah, I can.
Or do you want me to give her a call? Yeah,
She has the office right down below my office.
yeah.
Jennifer,
But
when do
right
we
now,
have,
spring break.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. You could drive, every time I drive to Mansfield Supply, I'm very thankful for that.
Jennifer, when do we need to get a date to you for the brochure?
By next week, so next Wednesday.
Yeah, you listed the 23rd. Yeah,
So, so Sue and Tom, are you going to give Jennifer a date that would work for you?
Yeah,
For the-
I'll look at my my wildflower slides and see when the best dates would be.
I'll follow, well, how about
Yeah,
I follow up with you and Sue and Miranda after the meeting, tomorrow or the next day, and we can kind of do some
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you all.
Excellent
This will be
idea.
fun.
Yeah, the trail is just over your head on both sides with Joe Pye weed and goldenrod and everything at that time of the year. So yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
spectacular. If anybody's interested, the Pollinator Pathway has a Mansfield webpage now, and I sent Jenny a whole bunch of our pictures from Merrell Meadow that are kind of all over the Pollinator Pathway webpage. So if you want to see what some of the flowers look like, they're online. Along with the bugs and the butterflies and the other critters from Merrell Meadow. Oops.
I'm just pulling up the rest of the stuff that is happening in the spring for that we currently have planned. Sue and Tom are doing a Mother's Day event in Merrell Meadow. We've got Chris Kiefner, who's going to be doing something at the Adventure Park on Earth Weekend. Aaron King's doing a spring migrant bird walk. We've got Justin Manville, who's a returning resident, apparently, is going to be doing the hike on Connecticut Trails Day. And then we've got the community gardens, and that's it. But
I think that brings us to the Mansfield Apartments redevelopment.
so I'm not sure how many of you attended the public meeting last week on the redevelopment of the Mansfield Apartments, but I attended, and I included in your packet the scoping meeting, the PowerPoint that they had, and what they need, or what the town, so basically how these work is the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Town Council prepare a joint response, and Paul Aho and Tony Moran both sign it on behalf of the, after each body approves their comments. So right now, UConn is just doing, they did a scoping notice. And so they're looking to see if they need to do a full environmental impact evaluation. And so we're at that level. Right, the Traffic Authority met today, and they are of the opinion that a full environmental impact evaluation needs to be completed just because of the traffic and circulation. But other things that people have brought up are the height, density, stormwater, proximity to Moss Sanctuary, as well as there's different criteria that, and we'll be referencing the statute as we prepare these comments. But Basically, how many of you are familiar or have you had a chance to look at this? They're basically changing the density from 270 beds to 900 beds. The changing the parking to 450 spaces, and it will be in a parking garage. That's their proposal. So between 2 and 4 buildings, 5 to 7 stories. Yeah.
Which is totally I also read what you included in the package on the university planning page
Yeah.
on compact residential focus area. And this is the page I'm referring to.
Oh, that's that was what Linda had done for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah. It says right on there, it's a trend, the area's transition from the heart of downtown to adjacent rural. As such, the scale and massing of buildings should be lower than the 4 to 5 stories that characterize the bulk of Store Center. And my comment I made actually at the scoping meeting was, who is so delusional to think that with 900 beds, there are only going to be 450 cars?
That was raised, not in those words, Ken, but it was also raised at the traffic authority.
Yeah. But you look at the off-campus apartments, and they may be 4-bedroom houses, but they've got 6 cars at them.
Yeah, and I wonder where they'll park.
Well, in the town offices.
Right.
Yeah. The other thought, as I was reading through it, it sounds like they are keeping open the concept of relocating the Moss Sanctuary trailhead. And the thought I was having that is more than a foot trail, because it's the equipment access to the dam. If you're going to bring an excavator and stuff to work on the dam for some reason, you use that road that goes down there.
Right.
Well, they may mean relocating it from the back of the apartments, not that they are saying it has to be in some other frontage.
Yeah. Well, my point is that it has to be more than a footpath.
Oh, yes, correct.
Yeah. Regardless of what they do with it.
Right. Yes, the other thing that I just want to mention while I'm thinking about it is this is in terms of the traffic impact. I'm sure people are thinking vehicles. I'm thinking pedestrians.
No, I think people are also thinking vehicles, because if you ever, people as it is, do not use the crosswalk. So one thing the traffic authority had talked about is barricading the sidewalk so you can't cross, and you can only cross at certain points, because it could be very dangerous.
That is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the intersection of 195 with South Eagleville Road.
Yeah.
Whenever I go there, we all have to wait for a pedestrian to cross the intersection. And that is with just a few students living at the current apartment house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When there are 900 students there, that pedestrian light is going to be on often. And that is going to cause the vehicles to back up at the intersections. I'm not sure anybody has really thought about this, but I know it's going to be a problem, because
they're going to have to do a traffic study, and right now they have not shown that there is any traffic study. I mean, we don't know, we don't have enough information to go on, and I think that's why folks that I've spoken with, we need kind of a full, we need more data, because we don't know where the building's going to go, where's the trailhead going to go for the Moss Sanctuary. Like, we don't, it's very amorphous right now, what we're trying to give them feedback on.
But that's just something that needs to be part of the conversation, is pedestrian traffic.
Yes, that has been mentioned, and I
Right.
think a lot of people agree with you.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
And I
not
think-
Yeah.
safety,
one
but
thing I-
congestion.
Right.
Well,
One thing I
Anyway.
wanted to bring your attention to was on the PowerPoint, there is this out parcel E that they're
Yeah, what-
talking about.
I'm suspicious of that. What are they planning there?
I'm
Where
not
is it?
sure.
Where is
I
it?
don't- So that is at the corner of 195 and 275, and when I pulled up GIS, it looks like there's a good chunk of it that's high and dry, but if you just look across the street, you can see that there's just, it's a wetland, mainly from the road drainage, but it's pretty wet right in here. So I don't know how much is
Yeah.
really usable, but yeah.
They
Well, it's too
also
small for a
have a,
hockey rink.
yeah. They also have their sewage pump station located there.
Yeah,
And I would assume economics would dictate that, that's where something like that would be. Because I assume there's a pipe for it to pump into at that point.
yeah, they would have to, they're gonna have to, they mentioned that as well. So yeah, this is where it says 2 to 4 buildings, plus or minus 900 beds and common spaces. Primarily,
5 to 7 stories.
sorry,
5 to 7 stories.
yeah. Right, I think one of their things that they were talking about was the fact that this is not there's no change in land use. So
That's
they talk,
bullshit. It's
Mhm.
quadrupling the density.
Well,
we are being recorded, Ken. So anyways, right now, yeah, so there's no change in land use. It's consistent with the master plan. Pedestrian accessible to campus via Route 195, proximity downtown stores. That those are their sort of on page 11 of the PowerPoint are their selling points.
Yeah.
Um,
And Jennifer,
Yeah.
the retired regulator in me looks at what they presented in that PowerPoint and looks like they're trying to go for avoiding a full EIE.
Yeah.
By saying it's not a significant change from what's there now.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
One thing my wife pointed out, though, was there an EIE done when this was first developed? And the answer is no, it was before the law.
Right, it was like 75
Yeah.
years ago.
So shouldn't we have, just like in building code, you have to go back and do it right when you do remodel? Shouldn't they have to do a full EIE to evaluate whether this was a good idea at all?
So I think for this committee, I think I think we need to synthesize, you need to synthesize what your main issues are. And what I'm hearing is that you strongly encourage a full EIE, and the issues with traffic, both vehicular and pedestrian. These are sort of what I have up here on the screen are it says the typical SEPA environmental analysis categories.
Yeah.
And these are some of the reasons why someone would need to go for a full EIE. And I think there's a lot to be said there. I think Linda and I are both well aware of some of these issues, and we did pull up the statute, and we will be sort of really citing the statute sort of to kind of reiterate why a full EIE should be done. But ultimately, all we can do is make these comments, and it will be up to
Well, I think one of the things that should be done with an EIE is next to a nature sanctuary here. I think the EIE needs to not just look at the Yukon parcel, but its probable impact on the adjacent parcel, inventory what's on the adjacent parcel, look at the increase in density compared to what there is now for people with population pressure to recreate in the open space. And I think there's going to be a severe detrimental impact on the moss sanctuary. And that is something that the EIE needs to carefully evaluate.
Yeah, if you, the other thing is the connections through there to which one is it? Knollwood. That trail, there's a herd trail that's quite well developed through there, and also the Birchwood, Felon, Monticello, Davis Road neighborhood.
Mhm.
I sometimes have met friends that live in that on one of those roads, walking in the moss sanctuary.
Yeah, I mean, we already have problems with 4 or 5 different places where there's fire pits and
Yeah,
big fires and obviously large parties that take place there,
Yep.
probably out of the apartments that are there now.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that that would be multiplied if you quadruple the number of people that were living there.
Well, the other thing is you're likely to get more undergraduates. That current housing is more married couples.
Right.
That one's supposed to
I,
be.
be- I believe currently it's Yukon's quarantine area.
Right.
It is, and before that, it
Yeah.
was upper class undergrads, actually. That was,
Yeah.
used to be married student housing, but now it is no longer.
If you-
So
if you
what we did,
Yeah.
Linda and I had a brief chat today, and we pulled up the statute and the SEPA regulations. And I think, basically, they have to determine the environmental significance, and so we'll be kind of tying it all back to the section 22A-1A-3. And I think there's a lot that we can tie back here to make the argument that a full EIE really does need to be completed, despite the fact that it will be just residential, but it's going to be doubling or actually, almost quadrupling.
Quadrupling.
Yeah.
Quadruple.
Yes.
Yeah,
Jennifer,
displacement is one of the things, is displacement or addition of substantial numbers of people. So
Yeah,
we'll be adding a substantial number of people,
and
substantial increase in
congestion
congestion, traffic, recreation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can be.
Noise level, that's going to be a issue.
Yeah.
Jennifer, is Connecticut Forest and Park aware of this scoping document?
No, it's on my list to send that off
Yeah.
to Claire Kane and
Yeah,
Eric Hammerling.
Because
Yeah.
they hold, because don't they hold
Previous
the
owner of the property.
conservation easement?
Yeah,
And when I looked at the conservation easement, there are guaranteed parking places for access for this, and I can't imagine that those won't be filled with student cars.
right.
Well, Ken, that was the problem initially. How do we guarantee parking? And I was rather amused when I read this, because they said that people visiting the sanctuary had the right to use 6 parking spaces along the access road for the apartments, behind the apartments, and that in order to justify them being in those spaces, they would be issued a pass to display in the window, which would be issued by Parks and Rec. And I thought, that was a nice fantasy.
Well, you know,
That has
actually,
never happened,
we did
and
that.
it would work anyway.
We did
So,
it for like 3 years, where UConn would give us these 6 parking passes that we would give to the receptionist, and they would sign them out. And then, you know, it was just hard. I don't think people they really knew about it, A, and B, it was just easier to park at the, you know, town hall, which is what we've sort of always.
And crossing from the town hall to that area,
Yep.
cross 275 with all these new cars zipping around is not as safe as it is now.
Right.
So I'm thinking that's part of the EIE, is having safe access to Moss Sanctuary from.
Can I make a suggestion? If they're gonna have to build this, maybe we need some offsetting compensation, like have them build down on the southeast corner of the Moss Tract, the proposed education center with parking.
I don't know. I mean, then we get into the whole neighborhood impact. Do we want a nature center on a local road? I mean, all of those things. Is this the best place for a nature center? Maybe our master plan will tell us that. I'm not sure. But, you know, do we need a nature center? You know, one of the things
And it would be perhaps be more useful in walking distance to the community center, but you have that issue of crossing 295.
Well, one of the things they do need to do an alternatives analysis, and, you know, while they raise the issue of just, you know, letting them be, putting a hockey rink there, putting a mixed use development there, one of the things they did not state is putting density in another part of campus, AKA King Hill Road.
Right, exactly.
That's something that I would like to, you know, advocate for, frankly. I think, you know, this is really kind of bifurcated by 275. It's not King Hill Road, you know, that's a core part of their campus, but yeah, I'm not sure. They need a public-private partnership to work there, and I'm not sure that's sort of above my decision-making level.
But also, I think a point to make is the death of that student this winter. And that's before the traffic got worse.
Right. I did look up the easement that UConn granted to CFPA, and then of course it was carried over to the town for access to the sanctuary through UConn's land. And it is a very clear right of access by foot, vehicle, bicycle, and other means. Now, it's pretty hilarious that it's bicycle, because Moss Sanctuary is not supposed to have any bicycles, according to the easement. So somehow we get to enforce that, which of course we won't be able to. But it is an imposition on us to try to enforce that with, I'm sure, many more bicycle riders in that park. There is, of course, the right to have 6 parking spaces. I think that is basically worthless. The town does have the right to construct up to 6 new parking spaces, again, on UConn land, or we could do it on the Moss Sanctuary. But again, I think students probably would take advantage of them, and the passes, as far as I'm concerned, are ridiculous. UConn does have the right to relocate both the parking and the trail access. So, and they have the right to terminate parking on UConn land if the town builds an education center there, which of course is not viable. I mean, that's not going to happen. It's just too subject to vandalism that close to those apartments. One thing I think we need to seriously think about is creating an entrance on the corner of 195 and Birchwood Heights for a couple of reasons. One, I think there's going to be construction. If they build this, there's not going to be access, probably for a couple of years, from that entrance that exists now. And two, I think Moss Sanctuary needs to grow up. It needs to become a town park with its own entrance and town land with a parking lot. Right now, it's just an appendage to Yukon with access behind Yukon Apartments. I think it's time to create a real park entrance, and the only place that can be done is at that corner. That's the only place that the conservation restriction allows. So I think we need to seriously think about this. We don't need to make a decision about it tonight, but I think we need to be thinking about it.
Well, that's part of our management plan.
Right, that's why we need a management plan.
Discussion of that. Yeah, and this, there is a small, 2-car parking lot
Yeah,
in Birchwood.
About that,
Very
yeah.
convenient for people to walk into and carry stuff down the trail a little ways to dump.
Right.
say it again?
Oh, if you walk the trail from that parking area, you see evidence where people have dumped different things along the trail.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Vicki, and I think that should be stated in the management plan, but that can also be stated, maybe that's a conversation with Yukon also, as we move forward down this, depending on what comes along with this.
Right, and
development.
the other part of a conversation with Yukon is that if they have these apartments, they are essentially going to use the town property as a backyard for their apartments. That is going to incur costs to the town for management, repairing vandalism, and maintaining the trails from heavier use. And I think we need to have a conversation with Yukon about that. I think they need to be part of the solution here. I don't know what that is, but I think they have some responsibility here.
Well, I think we ought to just say you can't build it because it could impact a wetland.
That's another tactic, but I think that's up to planning or inland wetlands.
Well, actually, we have no jurisdiction, so it has to be up to the state. Yeah.
Oh,
The
state.
state,
Deep to buy it.
The state very cleverly exempted themselves from most of the land use rules. But do
The other that I think we should do sooner rather than later is check to make sure there are boundary markers along the boundary with the Yukon land. Because if folks are out there making plans, I would appreciate it if they would make plans within the Yukon property, and then it's clear where the Moss Sanctuary property starts.
I mean, they have an A2 survey on their property. We have an A2 survey on our property. And I did way back, the property boundaries are marked. I know I can confirm that marking on Brookside Road or whatever they're calling that. But yeah, that's a good point. But ultimately, if it's both of us will have A2 surveys, and but we should make sure that that's clear. And that also could be something that we have them do before they begin construction.
Yeah.
Right, because the boundary is not at Brookside Drive. The boundary is farther in.
Right.
Yeah.
It really needs to be clear where that is. And I think sooner rather than later, so that they're not making grand plans on property that is not theirs.
Yeah.
I am going to be sending the deed, all the deeds, the conservation restriction, and I'm sure they have a copy of the survey, or would hope they would, but to facilities, just to make sure that we're all looking at the same information.
Two things, one on wetlands, they do have to satisfy the DEEP, and we can have some influence there. And the other one, let's not forget, they were planning, pretty much had approval for a road, extending the road by the hotel parallel to Eastwood Road and to North Eagleville Road, which would be coming out very close to the proposed property. And so we should know if they're planning to ease other traffic congestion by going ahead with that road.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about it for years, but
I haven't either.
they had semi-approval at one point.
Yeah, well, there's an old utility right away through there, which I was looking at the assessor's map online, and that line is actually on that old. I thought it was a utility right away, but it's owned by UConn through there.
Right.
Yeah, and that's where the road was going to be.
Yeah, I remember that now that you mention it. Yeah,
All
that
right,
was-
so do you have enough for your, do you want to summarize what you have for the minutes for the group? And do you all want to make a motion just so that something's official for your minutes? Or do
Well,
you
we
just wanna
should
summarize the
empower
discussion?
we should have a resolution to form the subcommittee to review the management plan for Moss Sanctuary. Do we want another resolution to point out some of our discussion, our concerns and discussion for on the Mansfield Apartments redevelopment?
Jennifer, just let me interrupt here. Jennifer, do we need to supply the council with a written document with our comments?
I would just, as long as your minutes are clear, then those will be, and you get them to me and Linda, we will summarize them. We will include them as attachments when we do our comments. And then the PZC and town council are going to be doing a joint letter. That's how that works.
Okay, so we don't have to do a written comment then.
No, just your minutes just need to be clear. And Jim, I don't know, the minutes can just reflect that you're meeting on 3/24 at 4 p.m. and I don't know
Okay,
that you need a
good.
formal
Yeah.
motion for that. That's just
Yeah.
sort of a,
So let me try to recap and make sure I haven't missed anything, since I've got to prepare clear minutes. We believe that a full environmental impact evaluation is necessary because of the significant change in density of population and the potential impact of this higher density on the Moss Sanctuary. And that to some extent, the UConn needs to become responsible for the town's increased costs associated with that. In addition, we advocate that the traffic study evaluate pedestrian traffic as well, both on the hazard on crossing 275 and on the traffic patterns at the South Eagleville Road intersection. We're concerned about the impact on wetlands of this thing, and we're concerned about the impact of parking with a probable inadequate parking space provision.
Probably totally inadequate, just not minorly inadequate.
And also our concern about the road paralleling Eastwood Road that had been proposed in the past.
Do you want to mention to reiterate Linda's comment about the fact that this is in the POCD, it's a transitional zone. So if you look at when Price Chopper was built, that was very intentional to have that building to be a lower scale. So it was kind of like a step down effect. And so basically we're stepping down to our rural one of our rural areas. And then now we're stepping back up on the edge of that area.
Putting a skyscraper next to Central Park.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I think
yeah.
that's a really big
This
point.
I
is-
can pull that language out of page 18 of the minutes of the agenda.
No, this is an important point. And Linda has worked very hard towards transitional areas. Four Corners going from CVS to a residential area. And this is an extreme case or an extreme violation that they're proposing.
I mean, they say that it's consistent with local plans of conservation and development, but I think that would be an inconsistency. But we're gonna have to go through the POCD and I have to look at that reference because we couldn't put Yukon land in our future land use map. So if you look at the future land use map in the POCD, you'll see areas in like Four Corners and other areas where it says mixed use transitional or compact residential traditional. So indicating that the idea was to have it be less dense. Because it's Yukon land, we were told very directly that we couldn't put anything on our future land use map that related to Yukon land.
But that doesn't mean this can't be brought up in a SEPA argument or something.
Right, but we
Yeah.
can't refer to the future land use map, but if we did have control, that we wouldn't have something so high next in an area where we're trying to.
But you might in the discussion remind people that Yukon land or state land is exempted from the future land use map.
Yeah,
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking, talking about the transition is the landscaping in front of E.O. Smith and the town office building and the community center with their large setbacks and green strip around them, reduces the density along
if you look
195.
at how Eagleville Green is designed and approved, that was intentionally, the buildings are brought right up close to the sidewalk to kind of create the parking in the back, the buildings in the front. So yeah, but the bottom line is we need to do some work to go back to our POCD to get the specific citations. We have to refer back to statutes. But so if you want to just include general thoughts, then we can kind of get the references.
Is the town, Jennifer, still considering a roundabout at that intersection, which I think would be, it was an awful idea in the first place, but with this additional traffic, I think would be very obstructive to traffic.
So the town has a community challenge grant into the Department of Economic and Community Development to do traffic calming on 275 and some sewer pump improvements. And one of those is a roundabout at Maple Road, and then just a median on 275. And they thought about doing a traffic circle at 195, but that did not pan out because I think Derek looked at that. It wasn't feasible. It was going to slow things down.
Good,
not
good,
sure.
glad to hear it.
The, okay, so Ken's got his summary for the minutes, so.
Right, I just have one more thing I'd like to add. When we were talking about the traffic concerns and pedestrians, at the moment, access to the Moss Sanctuary, parking is at the community center. People have to cross 275 to get to the Moss Sanctuary. So more traffic means less safety for people accessing Moss Sanctuary.
It moved item, the American Rescue Plan up. So that brings us to, do we want to get together again or return to in-person meetings?
So as of right now, the current legislation allows us to have remote meetings till April 30th. As you know, the council is back in person. PZC goes back on Monday. So it's a lot of staff time to do hybrid. So I think it's for these smaller committees, I'm not sure that we have the staff to do that. So I think it would be an either or situation for the committees that I staff. So are folks wanting to come back in person? And we may not have a choice after April 30th, but how are folks feeling about all of this? You'd like to go back in person?
Yeah, I see a
Yeah, I think-
thumbs up from, yeah.
Yeah. One question I have is, are we compelled to continue to provide remote access? And even if we're in person, do we have to have a hybrid connection for public?
No. I think we can make a choice. The council has made a choice to go hybrid. It's a lot of work because you're basically running a bunch of different meetings all at once. So, and I just don't think we have the staff capacity, but so it's either, I think for the smaller committees, the way I understand it, it's either you come in person or you go remote.
Yeah, the town council hang up one staff member to do nothing but manage the hybrid or the remote part of the meeting.
They actually have Sarah Ann, who's taking minutes. They have Tasha, who's running the Zoom meeting, and then they have someone in the booth. So it's 3 people. Yeah.
Yeah, there were two people involved with the remote part of the meeting. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's 3 people
okay.
actually. Yeah.
The question that I had was, and the few times before I went completely remote, we met in the town council chamber so we could physically be a little further apart. Because we tend to crowd the conference rooms.
So that
There's
will be
also
another
the
thing,
commu-
what I'm not sure what's available. So I'd have to
Yeah.
kind of see, because now that Board of Ed and Town Council and PZC are meeting in person,
Yeah,
the way it goes is it's Town Council, Board of Ed, PZC, and then they all get first priority, and then the rest
the
of us
people who get elected
get the rest. Yeah,
get priority.
yeah. All the
Which is
elected
right,
bodies get first dibs. Yeah.
There's also the community room at the community center, but hopefully Jay has got that completely booked with activities.
Well, that's where we hold the Recreation Advisory Committee. They meet quarterly.
Yeah.
But I think we could certainly look at that.
Yeah.
We'd like to have full capacity with activities, but I think there's always with advanced planning, a possibility of doing meetings there. We do host other time meetings there, so.
So am I hearing that you'd like to go back in person, but you'd like to be meeting in the council chamber so that you can spread out? Is that what I hear?
Although I would advocate for as large a room as possible so we can spread out. At least for the next couple of months till we know what's going on. I don't know if, because I think if we're in room C down by the town clerk's office, we end up in 2 rows,
Yeah. One thought I had is if you can continue to meet remote, is that you do you do every other meeting, you do some meetings remote, you kind of choose on your calendar, and maybe in the winter, you go remote. If we can do that, I'm not sure if we'll be allowed, but maybe that's something you think about. And then in the summer, we can have the windows open and things like that.
Yeah. So I think the question is, do we want, and I'm getting the sense that it's true that we will want to try to get together face to face in May.
Okay, I can schedule a meeting room, and is that everyone's consensus here?
Yeah.
I think it would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay with me.
And
Yeah.
Vicky and Charlotte, we're gonna do face-to-face for this subcommittee.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we having a special meeting in April?
There may be a couple of things coming up depending on the progress made on the request for proposal, and the Moss Sanctuary Subcommittee getting back to us. That one might be more expedient to do remote. We'll have to see how things look.
So wait, are you wanting to meet in April or no?
We were sort of talking about it, and I thought before we quit, let's be sure what we're doing here.
Well, it would be a special meeting, so can I have I just need to know so that I can schedule it.
Well, do we need to have a special meeting?
Right now, other than these management plans, I don't know that you have any additional business. Unless, I don't think we're going to be ready for you to look at an RFP. I think May be more realistic, right, Jay?
Yeah.
So no special meeting
I'm
in
sorry,
April.
yeah, I recognized that everybody had, Vicky was on the phone, so I would agree that May is a more realistic timeline.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we have no special meeting for April at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
so,
May meeting will be in person.
Yeah. I think our plan, it sounds like our plan should be May in person. Unless something happens. So that brings us to the Earth Day celebration, although we're off by a day this what's this, Earth Day 52.
I think so the Earth Extravaganza is a sort of a town-wide thing that the community center and youth services and Ginny Walton and other departments are doing. And Sue is going to do something with pollinators. And so I put that on the agenda to see if there's anything in particular that this committee wanted to do and also to just kind of let you know that it was happening. And then we mentioned, I was thinking about a walk at the Moss Sanctuary, but I'm gonna check in with the Conservation Commission or Henry Fry to see if they would be interested in doing that.
Yeah, it's probably at least, there was a poster board version of the town preserves, parks and preserves and stuff. I don't know how up to date that is, but at least some kind of passive table.
Yeah, I'll get all of our goods out, our maps and things like that.
But Jennifer, on these points on Mansfield Apartments, I'll just list the technical stuff and indicate that Jennifer will be correlating with the statutory requirements. Does that make sense?
I think you don't have to mention me in it, but just say that these are the following things should be, the committee discussed addressing the following things.
Okay, so we'll leave it up to you to bring in rope in the statute.
Yeah,
But I'm just really concerned they're gonna try to do an end run.
And the only thing we had for the Earth Day extravaganza, we talked about some kind of identify somebody to lead a walk in Moss Sanctuary. Okay, reports from members. Anybody have anything to share with the committee? Okay, so Jennifer, do we have need for an executive session?
nope,
Okay. Actually, I skipped over the communications. We did do the extravagance. Anything, I didn't look to see what else was in communications.
I think that was,
Yeah,
That's all that's on the agenda.
yeah. Realize I could go back. So we already discussed future meeting. So I think that brings us to Quentin's favorite part of the meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Second. Anyone opposed? Jennifer, can you stop recording, please?
Were you the second, Jim?
And
Uh,
Jay,
Yeah,
okay.
okay, I see Tom is
Jay,
The meeting is adjourned?
I
yes,
think so.
at
Okay.
8:41.
Great.